What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. Every Friday for over 6 years, we are bringing on awesome special guests, and we're having a mastermind. So I'm particularly pumped around this one. I've really dedicated my entire career in the mortgage business to advice. And our special guest, Lance, you don't know this, but early on in my career as a mortgage professional, I came up with this tagline that my advice makes a difference, and that was how I positioned myself. Dave Savage, my advice makes a difference. I had a brochure with it, and I really think I have a good understanding of what's the difference between a loan officer and a mortgage advisor. And I really work hard to turn loan officers into mortgage advisors and really eradicate that name. So I'm pumped to talk about how do we turn realtors into advisors and what's the difference between those two. So before we bring on our special guest, what's up, Mr. Bookspan?
It's Friday, and I have no place I would rather be on Friday morning than right here with you all. Also excited today because a lot of you signed up for my free 60-day coaching 100K challenge. And if you haven't signed up for that, just find me somewhere on Facebook and sign up. It is free. There's no catches. I'm not trying to sell anything. That's why I'm giving away for free. I didn't feel like selling right now. So super excited for that. I've got, I think, at least 200 of you signed up for today. So if you're there, someone else who might need a little nudge, jump in and join me. And, my partner in crime, who I'm going to see here in Phoenix when we host our first Exactly What to Say event in about 10 days. Deborah Bird, what's up? Miss Plug and Play.
Hey, we are halfway through September. So you know what that means? We got half a month until Q4, which is my favorite quarter. Bring it on,
That is it. Bring it on. And that's really, I think, what today's all about. And so I met our guest, Lance Billingsley. Go on.
Hey, one thing before we bring on our guest, I had one more public service announcement. I'll mention this again at the end, but I wanted to get this covered in the opening. But yesterday, we launched the First Home IQ Ambassador Program. And, just cliff notes for anyone who's like, hey, what is that? I've never heard of it before. This is a nonprofit dedicated to bringing real estate and mortgage professionals together to educate high school and college age students like Gen Z. And so we think that mortgage advisors, real estate advisors could really put a dent in financial literacy in America. And so we, Todd and I are the co-founders with not with Deborah, but with Kristen Messerly. Deborah was the very first financial friend. So I'm not going to go through all these slides, but I do want to say, guys, check it out. This is go time. We are, put your camera over this. If you want to be among the first ambassadors, we've started the waiting list yesterday. And we're going to pick 20 by next week. So we're hoping to have hundreds of loan officers apply to be on the list. And we're going to pick 20 by the end of next week, and we'll announce who those are. But the list has started. To be an ambassador, you need to donate $100 per closed loan, and or if you're a realtor, per transaction, and you need to make a deposit. But there's a tremendous amount of value. Check out the website. If you want to know more, you could email me, Dave email Kristen at First Home IQ if you need to know more. Todd, anything you want to say before we bring on our guest, and then bring on our guest?
I'm just super pumped, right? It's just such an easy way for you to be involved. And the program is really a way for you to differentiate yourself from all the other lenders out there. And it's a great opportunity for you to help do good in the world. We all know that there's a financial literacy crisis, and I couldn't be more excited about, the whole opportunity that we're creating over at First Home IQ. And I think the fact that we're going to be bringing in with realtors as well, I think is just a great opportunity. It just really lends itself to the conversation that we're here having today. And it's always interesting, right? When you meet people that you've heard about in your market for a long time. And I've heard about Lance Billingsley. He's the vice president of development over at Nabby Title. It's a newer title company in the Maricopa County market. They're expanding to other markets, but they're just, or I guess in Arizona, but they're just crushing it. And he's the guy that's out there training all the real estate agents how to be better. He's done so much. He's been involved with one of the biggest real estate teams previously here in town as a really key team member. He sat in the C-suite with the Zillow executives, and he really wants to help. I view him kind of with having the same message that Dave has for loan officers, to eradicate the whole idea of being a loan officer and being a mortgage advisor. Instead, he doesn't want real estate agent to be a word anymore. He wants them to be advisors as well. And so I think there's this great opportunity for us to learn from someone. I think this will be one of the most important calls that we do this year in the community. So if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching this live, make sure that you get the YouTube link to your friends, and then think about really how you can take action on this when the call is done. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Lance give us his resume, his experience, so that you understand why we're all so excited he's here today. Welcome, Lance.
Thank you to all three of you. This is a complete honor. Todd is a good buddy of mine, and for him to invite me on this is great. Dave and Deborah, thank you so much for making me feel at home already. Quick background on me: before I actually even became into real estate, a realtor. For the lenders out there, I think I'm listening to you guys, and I've had the lending industry pretty much surrounded. Meaning, my first career was as an appraiser. I'm still an appraiser, but don't do it anymore. But I've been a realtor. I've been a broker owner. I had a small little boutique brokerage. I also helped launch a pretty decent sized real estate team for Realty One Group. And then, like Todd said, I merged my team and took over kind of what was at the time a smaller team of about 30 agents, and launched with them and we turned that into 4 years in a row, did over 4,000 transactions, a little over 1.1 billion. I helped Zillow Offers launch Zillow Offers nationwide for them. And when they were buying homes, the Zillow Flex program is a lead generating program. We launched that for them. I've done a lot. So I'm basically a consultant coach, and I'm out there. I help all of our big teams. I pretty much work with every big team in the Valley, and I help them scale and kind of, again, change that mindset of being an agent to being more of an advisor / consultant.
All right, guys. So you heard that, right? Team that did 4,000 transactions in the real estate world, over $1 billion in production. So that's why Lance is here. And I just love your mission of helping them become advisors. So, how do you define that? Like, what do you view them as what the average agent is? And then what's the difference between that and an advisor?
Well, I think anybody that's an agent, you could not have a license and in less than a month in any state in the country become a real estate agent, right? And then I pay my membership dues, and now I'm a realtor. And I don't know that makes you qualified, or it now can have you give advice to someone. And I told you guys a little stat below. Forbes did a survey around the country to consumers, and real estate agents were the second least trusted group in the country, only behind politicians. And I believe if you can get away from that name of real estate agent, I tell anybody I know, get it off your business cards, get it off your website. An agent is someone who's basically a clerk, in my opinion. An agent just stands there and goes, let me process transactions for you. Whereas an advisor helps people grow wealth, helps people, think in terms of real estate investment, even though everybody wants to. I think that we can do that better.
Real quick, one of the things that I call out that delineates a mortgage advisor versus a loan officer is that an advisor, and actually I'm going to show a slide real quick, and I want to kind of hear your version of how this might translate to the real estate space. So, a loan officer delivers a transactional experience, like, hey, here's your cost to close the transaction, here's your monthly payment, here's your interest rate, and it's transactional. In a mortgage advisor gives options. We actually have a formula, like, hey, they must give options. Like, if you don't do the options, you're a loan officer. You must show the cost over time, like 3 years, 5 years, and you must show strategies to build wealth with real estate. So for first-time home buyers, one example is, a loan officer, again, would hey, I can close your loan on time, and here's your transactional cost.
Yeah.
And a mortgage advisor would say, hey, you know what? If you go from renting to owning, look at your net worth increase 5 years from now. Look at, hey, if you rented out a bedroom or two and you invested that, what would that mean? It's about going from transactional to transformational long-term, what would be, by the way, that's the North Star. Like they need to do a lot of things, but that's one thing they need to do. What would be like the one thing that would delineate agent versus advisor as a realtor?
Well, as I sit and listen to you, Dave, clearly Todd is the perfect matchmaker because you and I are absolutely preaching to each other's choir at this point. I think the transaction is what agents do. Agents think transactionally is I need you to buy a house to sell a house to buy a house to sell a house. And I think the advisor, Dave, does things that are always better for the client. And even though it may not make them money, right? I can give you advice that drives you in a direction that I may not get a transaction out of it, but I may make your life better, right? I may make your experience better. 82%, Dave, 82% of all consumers in the United States do not remember their real estate agent's name from the last transaction. The 18% that are left, I would challenge, are the advisors in the room. They're not the people who go, hey, Dave, do you want to buy a house? Here's a link to my page. Go pick something out. Let's go show it. Let's go write a contract on it. Let's be done. And by the way, thanks. Here's a cutting board for your experience. I appreciate it as a closing gift. And then you don't hear from me again. The real estate advisors are calling Dave back and going, hey, Dave, I'm not here to sell you anything. That property that you have is worth something. Let's maybe get creative in our financing. Let's maybe use that money that I can now take and go do something else with. Now I'm advising you much like a financial advisor, right? Is they're not called financial agents. That's always an advisor, and they have a little bit more street cred by having that name and that title, I believe.
You know, something I pulled from what you just said is it's the same thing. Like it's helping families go beyond the transaction and helping people achieve financial freedom, you know, and have a home with financial freedom, and maybe have multiple homes. Like, you know, you're really helping that customer. How long do you want to be in this home? And then what do you want to do next? And then I'm going to follow up and help them execute on a lifelong real estate plan. By the way, would this be fair to say that if you want to be a real estate advisor, you need to be working with a mortgage advisor, because they really need to look at real estate advisors need to look at the mortgage transaction as an extension of their advice experience, not just their sales experience. I think it's for a long time, realtors like, oh, that's part of my sales experience. But they really need to look at it like, hey, this is part of my advice experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the relationship, whether it is through title and an agent or lending and an agent, is very, again, almost transactional, like we're talking about, right? A lot of relationships that loan officers have with realtors or vice versa may be tied to the contract of, hey, let me give you an MSA. Let me help you out with a little bit of money. As if you'll help pay for my CRM, I may send you a transaction. There's no advice attached to that. That is, you know, I'll do for you and you do for me. So I think we first of all got to get rid of that. I think that the agents who bounce around based on that are the ones who are also weakening the relationship for their client, right? I can work with Dave this week and Todd next week, but if I don't know consistency from Dave all the time, why am I bouncing around, right? Find that one person who's an advisor. And I would encourage the lenders that are on the phone call, Dave, I would encourage them to only work with advisors. The agents are going to come in and out of their database. The advisors are going to continue to work with them and help them out a lot. I say this all the time, Dave, is in God we trust and everybody else data. So the data tells us that the consumer isn't happy with their previous purchase in the last 4 years. Right now, the data says almost 40 million people in the United States have a rate below 5%. But meanwhile, Zillow is getting almost 12 million unique hits a day. So those people are sitting on the fence going, what's happening, what's happening, what's happening? And are we as a group combining together to give them advice because we know they're looking? The data also says they have 40% equity nationwide. And the data also says 62% of them aren't happy with their purchase that they made because they were forced into something because of the way the market was. So are we really as a group, are Dave and I partnering up to give Deborah the advice that she needs to go, hey, Deborah, you don't necessarily have to buy to sell to buy to sell. How can we get creative for you? Take that equity, make it work for you, and go get what you want. And actually, now that everything's kind of still on sale, let's go get what you want and be unique in that. That's advising to me, Dave.
So I'm going to hand this to Deborah and Todd back. I do want to remind everyone in the audience, this is a mastermind. If you're digging what we're talking about, use those little reactions, give us a little reaction. It'll make this fun for us, which will make it funner for you. And then I also want to remind you guys, like, we want to make this interactive. If you have a question, it's not every day you have a guy like this where, he's extremely experienced. He knows he's talking to a group of lenders. Any questions you want to ask him to get into the mind of both an agent and an advisor? Any questions you have around how to know the difference between an advisor and a realtor? Like, guys, put questions down below. So Deborah, I'll give it to you, and then Todd, why don't you take it, give feedback, and ask the next question?
Well, so ironically, when you mentioned, you said how easy it was for agents to get their license. I was running a family law firm, and I got my real estate license in Texas, not to ever practice real estate, but I learned I could hand out deals to loan officers and agents and get paid on commissions if I were licensed. And I was shocked that it does not prepare you of what the real world is when you do become an agent. So that would be my starting question is, let's say you're working with an agent, they just got licensed or they're newer. Where do they get the education of some of this, financial literacy, or even just how to work with humans, how to manage a database to make the shift from you got your license, but now we need to sharpen those skills and become an advisor? What things do you recommend?
Yeah, it's funny, Deborah, that you mentioned that. I actually teach the new licensee classes here in the state of Arizona. So I see those people coming in, and I'm going to tell you, while realtors are falling off as far as the NAR is concerned at the clip of 200,000 this year, another 200,000 expected to leave next year. Those rooms are packed right now. And those people have a dream of living this great life. They're HGTV and Bravo people who think that real estate is all Ferraris and bikinis and everybody's having fun all the time.
Selling Sunset.
Yeah, thank you. So that's it. It's if only it was that way. So every time, and by the way, they're basically taught for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long those classes are, Deborah, they're basically taught how not to get sued. And just be scared, stay in your lane, don't do anything, be source of the source. That's kind of how we teach them. And statistically, Deborah, 87% of them fail in the first 2 years. My new podcast is called 87%. So those kind of things are what's going on, right? So taking that, and I think what we have to really do as loan officers, as lenders, as advisors, as title side, we really have to select really quickly the best of the best and pour into them, understanding that statistically 87% of the people I meet coming out of there aren't going to be here in 2 years. It's not to help them, but those people who really understand what it is. So I would almost advise this, Deborah, if a lender is going to interview an agent as a partner, as a possible partner, there might be some key questions that you can ask. Of, hey, what challenges have you had in your past career? How did you overcome those? Not what are your wins? Tell me where you want to be in 5 years. Too general. Is those kind of questions. When I built our team from 30 agents to 200 agents and went from doing 200 million to 1.1 billion in a year, those kind of questions are the ones that I can now find the advisors and get rid of the clerks. I can't have a clerk on my team because they're just standing here sucking up the time and the energy. So on the lending side, while we try to do classes and we try to go, hey, let's do a class on FHA, and let's do a class on first-time homebuyers. Are we really giving advice? Or are we just building a class so we can put them in our CRM? Those are the questions I think we need to ask as partners.
All right. So then
Thank you.
how would you follow up then? I mean, we've got loan officers here and, they're not having the best year of their career.
Yeah.
Some are, but most aren't. And their number one vision in their mind is I've got to get more real estate agents to refer me business. So how do you recommend, if someone's going out there and they say, I love this whole idea, let me help my real estate agent friends become advisors. Like, how do you recommend that they get that meeting? Do you have any advice for getting the meeting first? And then secondarily, how do they get that conversation going with them, asking questions like you just mentioned?
Yeah, Todd, I'm going to be honest. I actually think it starts at you. I think are you a true advisor? Are you thinking that way? Or are you thinking I need to just gather real estate agents in as big of a CRM as I can, and hopefully one of them sends me a deal? Or do I just see them on social media and they're out at the lake all the time? So those kind of things, yeah, you attract what you are, no doubt. So I have to understand, am I an advisor? Because how can I go find advisors if I'm not? Right. So I would start there with education. I would start there with really thinking a different play. We've always heard the UVP, right? What's your unique value proposition? Is that there? Now I'm going to attract that with the real estate pros that I'm out there working with. And I'm actually going to probably cater my message. I'm going to cater my classes. I'm going to cater my trainings all on that. I think we're so busy trying to get quantity instead of true quality. And clearly the quality is playing in a different game. And yes, transactions are down nationwide, Todd, while you're saying we're expected to be right around 4.3 million this year, but someone's doing 4.3 million transactions. So how do I attach to that while making sure those people are really advisors as well as I am?
Well, and I think that's just it. We're very fortunate to have this community, the Trust Engine Mortgage Coach Win by Noon group, where, we're constantly being poured into by having incredible speakers like you come on and really help with leadership and mindset and some of the soft skills with sales, as well as, the other skills with sales. And I feel like just from speaking in front of large groups of agents, they really lack that. Like they don't really have that North Star pouring into them to just teach them the basics of how to manage a database. And oh, by the way, what it costs you by not managing the database, like the missed opportunities. And so that's for those who are listening right now. If you're a loan advisor, be the North Star for them. Are you hosting monthly, whether it's virtual one-to-many via Zoom or at your office or going to their office? How could you help fill those gaps with basic things like a rate buy down versus a price, reduction, and even just the little conversations that I'm having, I don't originate anymore. I'm always amazed how many agents still don't understand the difference between, a temporary or a permanent buy down and how that could be leveraged for marketing and, increase purchasing power of others or get a home sold. And so I encourage you all to be bold and to be brave and to host educational events and attract those who seek to learn and then help them do along the way.
Yeah, Deborah, I think that's great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, there's no doubt advisors attract advisors. The term game attracts game. Like it's real. So I hope everybody is connecting with that. If you want to kill it and have real estate advisors, which are going to make more money, they're going to be probably cooler people to work with, just energetically. People that you connect with, you got to be that person. So I mean, I think we nailed that. What are some ideas to both spot them? Like, is there anything on social media where like we can just like how to see an advisor, and then also what are some questions that if I was a loan officer talking to a realtor, that if I asked these two questions, I could spot them this way, and here's the two questions that will, and by the way, maybe it's not that simple. Maybe I'm trying to make it too simple, but if there were a question or two that I would ask like I know if I was telling realtors, hey, you want to know how to find an advisor? Ask them to show like how, when you pre-qualify someone, what do you give them? And when when you help first-time home buyers, you show them the long-term benefits of homeownership. Is this part of how you pre-qual my buyers? Like that would be my advice to a realtor. But what's your advice on a loan officer identifying an advisor agent?
If I was going to ask a question to an agent, just thinking off the top of my head, Dave, I would ask the question, I want to know the details of your follow-up, right? The money's in the follow-up. That's always there. We've all known that. And we all go, well, let's get in your database and make sure you drip and make sure that you send them. You're not getting anybody that way. And on social media, you talked about that. The data tells us, Dave, social media is not used for people who go, I want to use you as a real estate professional. Social media is to verify that you are who you say you are. right? So they're going to look at you on social media. Here's the difference between an agent and an advisor, Dave. An agent talks about themselves on social media, and an advisor talks about their client on social media. Our
Good
social
one.
medias, our social medias are filled with, look at the house I sold, look how quick I sold it, look how many days, look at my new listing. None of that is yours. Nothing. When's the last time, and Deborah, clearly you're a social media expert. When's the last time anybody on this room or anybody listening to this podcast, to this system that we're doing, when's the last time one of them had their client put a testimonial on social media about them? Like,
Never.
think about that for a second. Outside of never, when's the last time that I had my client Todd come on and go, hey, I sold my house in 3 days and I made $10,000 on it, and I did really, really well, and I'm excited for what I got. And I just want to say that Lance is a really great advisor, and he helped me get through this in, quite frankly, what is one of the scariest processes a person can go to. Data tells us that as well.
So I want to pound home that, because I've interviewed Donald Miller, the author of Story Brand. You know, my biggest takeaway from that interview is be the guide, not the hero. I recently interviewed BJ Peterson, who's the president of Story Brand, by the way, and the author of Marketing Made Simple. Highly recommend it, guys. And what he just said is not only the difference between an advisor and an agent or a loan officer, but it's good marketing. Like you will actually get better results. I would like to raise the bar on a testimonial. How about if you did more than a transactional testimonial, but you had a transformational, where a consumer that you've helped multiple times, and you also talked about the net worth and the equity and the financial freedom that was gained by working. Because at the end of the day, and I think this is true for realtors, tell me if you agree with this, people don't get loans because they want loans. They want loans because they want homes. And the home with financial freedom is the ultimate American dream. Like, a home without financial freedom is only partial. But what if, you know, both lenders and realtors got around this concept that I want to help you have your home, but I want to help you achieve financial freedom also, and that is truly like the delineating difference between agent and advisor. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think, Dave, that's a great point. I think, and if you guys are listening and you're talking to realtors consistently, here's a way to get the good ones to stay with you. Is imagine, Dave, I meet you at a listing presentation, and I don't talk about myself. I don't talk about my marketing. I don't talk about my social media. I don't talk about my data and my stats and my volume. And yes, I did this and this and this, because that's about me, right? When am I going to talk about you? So here's what I'm going to do, Dave. I'm going to have Todd and Deborah, my last 2 clients, talk about me on video. And they're going to talk to you about, hey, they bought a house 2 years ago from me, and now now I've helped them change that into wealth. I've helped that. I tell people all the time, if you'd have bought a house 2 years ago, your kids would be going to school for free. But do you think that way? And are you able to convey that to your client? And by the way, I don't need to. I'll just have a couple of past clients do it for me, right? A real estate advisor, Dave, in my opinion, imagine showing up to a listing presentation. You guys are talking to realtors. Imagine showing up to a listing presentation and giving reviews on video from the last 5 realtors that you did transactions with. How about that? Right? How about that's an advisor going, I'm so confident in what I do that the last 5 people I worked with came on video to say that the experience was something unique. That's not a transactional person. That's putting my brand and my name on the line in front of somebody and holding accountability to it. If I was doing this all over again for you guys that work with large teams, if I was doing this all over again, every single transaction would get a review, not only from the consumer, but also from the agent on the other side, because now I know what I'm dealing with in my building. And I also know that it can recruit off it. Those 2 things to distract a little from what you said, Dave. But I think that's points of going to, if you're looking for an advisor, those are the kind of people who will make it that way.
Love what you're saying. I want to ask one more question. Then Todd, you know, I've been asking all the questions. Make sure you get in the pole position here. But I had coffee yesterday with was it yesterday or the day before in Nashville with a loan officer by the name of Brennan Donaldson. And I actually met Brennan at an Amplify event, which, reminder everybody, Renee Rodriguez is promoting Amplify. Make sure you check it out. But he's written one book. It's called Never Sell Your First Home. And then he's got a new book coming out called Buy Your Kid a Home in College. And then he's got a plan for a third book called Never Sell Any Home. Never Sell Any Home. So first of all, those are titles of a mortgage advisor, like the idea that you're going to make a case, buy your kid a house in college, which, by the way, aligns really well with First Home IQ. We're going to have a lot of educational content around that. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, one of the things we're training our loan officers to do is, hey, when you see someone that's graduated from high school or, going to college or graduate from college, you should go to that family proactively with hey, they could buy a duplex, they could buy a triplex, they could house hack, they could buy a house with 3 bedrooms and rent it out. Like, to me, that type of emotion is the difference between an agent that's just waiting for people to say, I want to list my home, versus an advisor that's like, oh, you got a kid going to college. Did you know that you could pay for college and help your kid become a millionaire by, age 40 if you did blank, blank, and blank? Any thoughts on that? And then Todd, go ahead and, I want to make sure I don't hog all the questions here.
No, perfectly. I bought my very first house at 19 years old, Dave. My father did exactly what you're saying and said, go buy your house. And then the money I've made in my career, I bought nothing but new construction homes between 2004 and 2007. And as an appraiser, could see the market changing and dump them all. So that got me to be able to kind of maneuver where I wanted to be in my life. And I think that experience is something we need to convey. It doesn't have to be necessarily your experience, but telling that story is what people need to hear, instead of what house you sold yesterday. It's, hey, I sold a house and I helped a family that's buying a house for an 18-year-old to help them make generational wealth. We all know, buy 1 house a year, 2 houses a year for 10 years, you never have to work again, right? Just do that right. But are we messaging that while we're so busy being stuck in the weeds, right? And so I would encourage the people on the call, when you find that advisor and they're that unicorn, for lack of a better term, and they want to be that person and that assistant to people in the transaction, is, am I pouring into them all of knowledge and all the options that I have in my toolbox as a lender? Am I giving them all of that they can convey? And what's the chances we get on the same page and on the same social media and on the same post and talk together about advising and talk together about helping, instead of talking about being an agent?
I just love that. I love that whole idea. I mean, we're all better together. I love your question to the realtor. What are the details of your follow-up? I think if I ask that to 10 realtor friends, so hopefully I'm not going to insult them who are watching this. And I think most of them would have a bad answer to that. I don't think they have great follow-up. And so what do you view as great follow-up, so that I can coach those that when I start asking that question, I can help them actually create a better follow-up system?
Yeah, I'm actually, can I real quick, Dave, Todd, go back to something Dave said about never selling a home.
Absolutely.
The best agents that I've ever hired, believe it or not, Deborah, I hired out of real estate school, because I taught those classes. I found 10 unicorns out of 1,000 people, and I could tell by their drive and their personalities that they were going to be successful. None of them have ever sold a home, even though they all are half percenters in the transaction in volume these days. Every one of those 10 probably makes $600,000 to $800,000 a year doing in a down market, because they've never sold anything. All they've done is walk people through a process. And then to Todd's point, to follow up is not to just put them in a CRM and send them updates on the market. And that's what 87% are doing, right? That's why they fail. No one's responding to that. The data says 13% of people even open emails. The other 87% of those people don't go into emails, if at all. So I'm losing them in that. So Todd, am I following up in terms of in person? Am I following up in terms of handwritten letters? Am I following up in actually telling them in a letter what's going on in the market, not necessarily what the value of their home is. That's what most print media is. The value of your home is this. Click this link, click this QR code, and I'll tell you what your house is worth. No, that's still all about you, right? There's a lot of I's in that sentence. I will tell you, click this to find out what it's worth. Am I pushing that to the side and going, hey, the market has done this, right? The market is turning this way, bad, good, or ugly. And I want you to know that I'm the first one to let you know that. And I'm not letting you know that through a drip with 4 other new listings that have come online. I'm letting you know that through an in-person meeting or a Zoom or an in-person call with that touch. If a person doesn't answer it that way, Todd, and what's your follow-up, then they're probably just an agent and they're waiting and hoping that they're going to come back. And like I said, 82% don't even remember your name. They're not clicking you again. They're finding someone else online.
Hey, I want to insert an idea right here.
Yeah.
All you mortgage coaches that are watching this, to help an agent follow up with advice, you could be coming to the agent with ideas for people that they've referred you. You could be coming to them like, hey, did you notice that I just got alert that person had a kid graduate from high school. Here is what a rent versus own would look like for that kid to, for the parents to help them, show it to them. Or one of the reasons why I named MortgageCoach is not only did I want to make loan officers present ideas and strategies, I wanted to help them coach and follow up. So how about you learned in the meeting that, hey, they got this loan, they wanted to pay off the MI in 3 years, they wanted to buy their second home in 6 years. What about if part of your follow-up was coaching them, like, hey, it's going to be, this is where your milestone. So loan officers, well, first of all, not loan officers, mortgage coaches, mortgage advisors come to realtors with ideas to help them follow up in a way that's value, that's advice. You like that idea, Lance?
I absolutely love it, Dave. And I've listened to you talk. And if you look at the world, teachers make pennies because they're teachers. Coaches make dollars because they coach. I've been a coach. I was a coach for 4 years for the largest real estate coaching group in the country. And the coaching is this for the mortgage lenders that are on this call right now. Here's the big thing I would ask you to do is when you coach them, the biggest thing to a coach is accountability to what we talked about. I can tell you, hey, let's go be an advisor. What's different is, hey, let's in a week from now, I want 10 ideas as to how you're going to be an advisor. In a week from there, I want 3 that have been implemented on how you're going to be an advisor. And I'm going to have that call with you once a week. It's going to be a 15-minute call, and I'm going to put you to it. Right? I'm not charging you anything for this. I'm just pushing you to be better. I'm pushing you to be an advisor. And again, just a standard mortgage lender to a standard real estate agent will never have that conversation. Never. An advisor to an advisor will go, Dave, how can I help coach you? Well, I'm struggling in this. Awesome. We're going to have that solved by next Monday. And by the next Monday, you're going to actually present it to me as though I don't know what you're talking about. And then the next Monday, we're going to implement it because you're going to have 5 ideas on how to implement it. Those kind of things, as on the lending side, if we can keep the realtors accountable to the actions that we talk about, now that's an advisor on the lending side like we don't see.
Love.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because you said before, Lance, if we want to help a realtor become an advisor, we have to be advisor ourselves. And so it's, the coach in me, and I know it's in you as well. It's the whole idea. Then you actually have to be accountable as a loan officer to help hold someone else accountable. And so, it just makes me think about what are you holding yourself accountable to now, right? I always try not to show up here and be the guy who's, bringing that back at y'all. But, I'm talking to a lot of you, and a lot of you are struggling in mindset, and you're not holding yourself accountable. You're not keeping standards to yourself. And so, and I've seen that with the real estate agents as well. So talk for 1 minute about mindset, Lance. I mean, how are you getting the agents that you're talking to? Are you, how are you shaking them up and getting them to realize that even though the market may be slower, not everyone in this market is actually slow?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Todd. And I talk on mindset. I mean, I think that word is almost overused at this point in the real estate industry, because we all either have put on those classes or we've gone to them or we see them online. And if you're on any social media, mindset or everywhere. So I actually go about it a little different. I go about a little different way, Todd, is when I talk to groups, I think it's about getting the junk out of you and bringing in the good stuff. Fair. I think and the only way I can bring in the good stuff is by putting it out, right? Todd, you love to do charity. You love to help people. That's enriching you and helping you. But are we thinking that at a macro way, right? So one thing I do with the teams that I work with all the time is I give them accountability partners. The accountability partner is this: yes, you're struggling. Yes, the market is down. Yes, inventory is what it is. But my company continues to set records. So someone is doing transactions out there, right? So how do we think positive through that? And Todd, a little thing I actually do with everybody is it's the rule of 20. Is I actually give people accountability partners. And I would encourage the lenders on this call to find one realtor, just find one and do this with them and watch what happens to the relationship and the transactions and the output in this. So what I would do, Todd, is I would say, Todd, Deborah, you guys are on my screen right now. Today, I want you to text each other 20 things that you are thankful for. That's it. But here's the catch, Deborah, Todd. Tomorrow it's going to be 19, and the next day it's going to be 18, and then it's going to be 17, and we're going to get all the way down to 1. Here's the biggest rule of it. At no point can you repeat anything. So I can't say, hey, Deborah, I'm thankful for my kids. I'm thankful for my job. I'm thankful for my family. Okay, that's done. Now what? Right? And inevitably you get to the point that you start thinking about things that you are so fortunate to have. Guys, we make great livings. We have none of us are out there curing cancer or digging ditches or flying in a war. Those people are doing stuff. We're able to have great lives by helping people. And are we thankful enough for that at the macro level? Right. And it might be, Deborah, I just want to say I'm thankful for the call I had with Todd this morning. He made me better. I'm also thankful for the interaction I had with this realtor. It made me better. If you can start thinking that way, Todd, you'd be shocked what happens in team meetings when you give people that assignment and you go, the reason it's in 20 is because I'm back here in 3 weeks and I'm going to see who did it and who didn't do it. Back to that accountability piece. And by changing that mindset, production almost doubles and triples in a lot of the groups that I'm in because they've stopped thinking about the things and they're so worried about the things that they're thankful for.
I just love it. I mean, gratitude and joy, I think, are just two things we should all choose to embody. And I know it's hard now, but I know that. I'm grateful for you for being here, Lance. I'm grateful for you, Deborah. Grateful for you, Dave. All right, Deborah, take it away.
Well, I wanted to add to that, just talking about mindset and even addressing that, there's some real people right now who are maybe feeling like they're in a little bit of a sales depression. And so I had hired a business coach. I didn't want anyone in mortgage or real estate. And this was probably about 8 years ago. And I worked with him for 5 years. And he was a psych analyzer in the Army. And then he had worked with Stephen Covey and Zig Ziglar. And one of the things that he would get us to do to just kind of develop your self-image was he got us a planner and we had to track. There was 2 things. He said tracking or measurement and righteous behavior. And righteous behavior, not in a spiritual way, but committing to yourself, like even if it's making your bed, doing 10 push-ups and just committing to it, measuring it, and honoring those commitments to yourself. It helps grow your self-image and your self-trust. And then when you do that over time, you start to think better about yourself. And when you think better, then you feel better. When you feel better, you perform better and you do better and you get better results. And so just going back to the basics of win by noon and tracking the activities, like what are those standards that you're protecting? Like what are the commitments you can do every day before noon? And guys, secret, if you go online and get the real estate edition planner or the loan officer planner, Todd actually tells you based off top producers, like these are the activities you should do before noon and just do them consistently. And I think when you do that, you can, pat yourself on the back instead of I said I was going to go to the gym. I didn't go to the gym. And then we kind of mentally beat ourselves up and then our self-image just continues to go down. And so choose an accountability partner, or make the decision just right now. Order your planner. What are your activities before noon, and then do them, and notice how you attract more and how you start to feel better just by doing that.
I want to pile on to that, because another point I want to make in making a case for being an agent advisor or a mortgage advisor is they have different jobs. Like, they're having different conversations with consumers. They are just psychically healthier and better because they're having conversations that are transformational for families. Like, they're living in the, when they think of a family that they helped, they're just automatically kind of doing Moneyball in their head. Oh, I helped that family buy it. The house is worth this. I know they have a loan of Y. I helped them buy an investment property. I helped them, like, they even, like, sometime in the top of their head know the net worth impact and the financial freedom impact of a consumer. Like, they live a different life. So I just want to really make that point, that it's a funner job. Like, selling transactions in the mortgage space, selling transactions in the real estate space is like a gerbil on a wheel. Like, you're only as good as your last transaction or your last month. But when you're a transformational advisor, you were just living a different life in the space. Any thoughts on that, Lance?
Yeah, gosh, thank you for the blessings of letting me be on this today, because you guys are making me better. I appreciate everything you're saying. To one point on what Deborah's saying, the data tells us that if you do something for 90 days straight, you have a 90% success rate. If you add one thing to that, you have a 30% success rate. So it shrinks by 60% if I start trying to do two different things. It becomes a habit. None of us wake up in the morning and go, what should I do first? No, you get up and you eat or drink coffee or brush your teeth and bite. You don't think through it. The advisors, to your point, Dave, advisors aren't at any point going, what should I do next? They're not sitting in a huddle going, I can't think of what to do. They're 5 steps, 10 steps, 20 steps ahead of you, and they're playing at a game that you're not even in the same hemisphere, much less ballpark. So they've become so well at doing those habits that Deborah's talking about that they're just normal, right? And if it is do your work or get your planner or find accountability pieces or all of that, they didn't even think about it. It's just natural to them. So yeah, Dave, I think you're absolutely right on point with it, and I think finding that consistency is where the advisors don't worry about it, but the ones who don't, like to Deborah's point, they forget to go to the gym. The advisors already have it in their schedule and it's already done, and they're gone by 6 o'clock in the morning to go get to work and win by noon.
So we're in the fourth quarter. We got less than 15 minutes left. I want to remind you, if you have a question, get that question in for Lance before we run out of time. There's a question. I can't remember if we answered this. Paul Hurley in Facebook Live put, what is the best way to approach an agent to do this review? I can't remember if you covered that.
To do this review? What do we mean?
I think during at the end, like at the closing, instead of just asking the client for a review, also asking.
Oh. Yeah, I think that, first of all, in my point, if you're a leader or a designated broker or team lead, that's almost the accountability piece, that just so you know, Deborah, when you close this transaction, this is going out to the consumer to ask for a review, and it's going out to the other agent to ask for a review. I would instill it there, right? A lot of people do it prior to closing. I mean, those are kind of the old, the second one is kind of the old standard of, let me get the 5-star review because that's all I'm going for. So I can tell everybody I have hundreds of them, and that means you'll use me. No, they'll only read the last 3 or 4 on anything they buy anywhere online. They don't read the other 800. They just read the last 3 to see what it is. So I would encourage agents, if you're listening, and lenders, if you're listening, when you talk to those real estate advisors, is I would very much instill right at the beginning the processes of, this is how we're going to do it at every closing, at every transaction. It is an automatic send, and we're going to get accountability to the piece. And to the point, Dave, I think a lender can actually go to an agent and go, how about this for a challenge? I want you to be an advisor, and the next 4 transactions you do that we do together, I and you will send out reviews to the consumer and the agent to see what their take is on both of what we do. And good, bad, and ugly, we're in this together and we will learn from it. That's next to me is kind of next level thinking, Dave.
Totally agree. Todd, any questions you want to make sure we get in here before we run out of time here?
Well, I love that Lance just had the assumptive, hey, real estate advisor, we're going to do these next 4 transactions together. So think about the scripting that you're using, and think about the way that you can certainly set up a review for yourself, right? So you can build this in, even in your initial call, right? My goal is to get 5-star service with all my clients. And so any point through the transaction that you feel like me or a member of my team is not earning a 5-star review, I'd like you to let me know. So you can set that right up front. Then you can actually just midway through call them, which of course, is my recommendation. Email them or text them. Am I on track for a 5-star review ? So again, you're keeping that going. And if you ask that actually mid-process, then if you're not on track for a 5-star review, guess what? Now you've got time to course correct it. Then you can ask it right before they go to close. And then that way, when they close, they've already heard it. They've already kind of committed along with you that they're going to provide the 5-star review. And so now you've got this opportunity, I think, to take it one step further. And I just loved what you said, Lance, because I just made a note here for my team to add to the process that we're going to review agents on both sides after every transaction. And so that's pretty easy too. Just say, hey, awesome. Hey, one of the things I really want to make sure I help you with is doing a 5-star review for you online. What platform would you prefer I do that on? And then, feel free to send me the link. And then if they want to be on Facebook, or they want to be on Google, or they want to be on Yelp, then you can jump in and help them with that. So thanks for that idea, Lance. It was pretty inspirational.
Well, Todd, the buyer's agent is the person you're in all likelihood working with, fair? Because the buyer is getting the loan. Imagine sending that with the LSU to the listing agent, right? So as I'm sending loan status update, by the way, how are we doing? By the way, I'm going to ask for a review. Am I on pace for that? And for you guys that are listening, now you've exposed yourself to the other side, the other agent, to be, now I'm playing at a different level. Why? Because you've never been asked this question as a listing agent. No lender has come across and said, how am I doing? What do you think about my work? Would you give me a 5-star review? And if not, why would it not be? By the way, I'm going to ask for it. So now I'm opening myself up to both sides of the transactions, instead of typically we hear from the listing agent when things have gone wrong, and the loan has kind of gone sideways on it, and now the listing agent jumps in, and of course they're mad, and now that relationship becomes confrontational and reactive, not proactive. So I would encourage the people to, again, we're thinking at a different level like that, and this is a big thing that I ride all the time. To everybody that's listening, the NAR does a survey every single year, and they do it for consumers, and they do it for agents, and probably 1% of realtors even know it exists, even though it's free and it's out there. And in the 2021 NAR review came out, and they, how many people have this much money, and who are the buyers, and what are millennials doing, and all that happens. And they surveyed the consumers, and they said, what is your biggest complaint about your realtor? And the number one complaint, anytime I ever ask this question, people go, they make too much money, or their communication is terrible. The reality of it is, the number one complaint is they did not tell me what to expect next. Are we doing that as advisors? Have you guys as lenders built in a platform that goes, hey, borrower, here's what's going to happen next? By the way, I'm working with a realtor. I'm working with a real estate advisor named Deborah. Hey, Deborah, have you built that platform for your client that explain to them, okay, now that we've opened escrow, here's what to expect next. We have 10 days for an inspection. And if they respond this way or this way, here's what's going to happen next, right? And I think what we miss is the consumer right now is not telling you they want the same real estate experience they've ever had before. They are telling you the data. By the way, a couple of the billion-dollar entities have built one-stop apps that I can now buy a home, sell a home, get loans, all on an app. But the consumer, Todd, is telling us this. They want the Grubhub experience in real estate. In Grubhub, what do I know? I know when the food gets in the oven. I know when it gets picked up. I know when it's on the way. I know when it's been dropped off. I know, by the way, at the end, they're going to ask me for a 5-star review, because it happens every single time. If we can build that, now we become complete advisors. There's no question about what to expect next, and transparency becomes unbelievably important. So now I would encourage the people on this call that work with real estate advisors to hold them accountable to build that. Have you built that what to expect next platform? And as lenders in the room, have they built what to expect next for the agent? And have they built what to expect next for the buyer? And by the way, every time I send an LSU to the listing agent, I'm telling them, hey, just expect this 5-star review because I've been talking to you about it once a week for 4 weeks. Here it is. Remember when we talked about it? Here it is. Like those kind of things. I think everybody wants that experience, and we're not giving that to them.
Love this, guys. So hey, before we run out of time, I wanna just remind folks that we have these slides. We're on a mission to help 5 million Gen Z before the age of 25 be inspired, educated around, buy your first home as soon as you can. We want to make sure all their parents know, help your kid buy a home if you have the means. We want to educate them on buy a home, never sell a home. These are all important lessons that we want to drive. And again, the ambassador program has started. We want you guys to join the movement so we can build the media company that creates the content, build the counselors that will outreach to all the high schools and colleges. And this program is out. So guys, you can either one, if you haven't already, put your phone over this. Also, you can always go to savageinsights.com, whatever the next interview I'm doing, and I've got a great interview coming up this Tuesday at 9:00. It'll be at the top of First Home IQ, but for today, it's like here's the slides, and here's the sign up link. If you want to get on the waiting list, there is the link to do it. Lance, we would love to have you. I know Tom Ferry is going to get behind First Home IQ. We have talked to his organization, and he's a friend of mine. So he is going to help us get the word out in real estate, but we would love for you, if this connects with you, we'd love to have you as an influence in our community.
I would love to help out in any way. And I coached for Tom. I didn't mention, I said a coaching service. I coached for Tom for 4 years. So
Awesome.
I know the platform well, and yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So Todd, we got 3 minutes left. Why don't you bring us home? Any last questions or any coaching notes?
I'm going to bring us home with some action plans, then I'm going to hand it off to Deborah for hers. But, I just want to say thanks, Lance. I knew this was going to be an amazing time together. I've got more than a page of notes, more than I've taken in a long time, and just some fabulous ideas that if you all choose to, that you can take out with your real estate partners and really help them with this mindset shift from agent to advisor. I would encourage you to start with the rule of 20, find somebody that and the easiest way to start it is just to text them a quick list of 20 things. They're going to say, oh, awesome. I'm glad you're grateful for those things. Then you can say, awesome. Now I'm challenging you to be my accountability partner, and text me 20 back. So I think that would be challenge number one. I think challenge number two is to figure out who you can sit down with and have the conversation. And I would just use the question Lance gave us. Hey, tell me about your follow-up. And then you'll hear from them what that looks like. And then he also talked about this whole idea of something that, he slipped in there at the end, which was your weekly loan status update calls to your listing agents. And you all know in my ideal week, I teach that we do that every week, and we're doing an intro call. So if you're not doing that, right, the easiest way to get that connection with the listing agent is to actually talk to him. So that'd be my next challenge. If you're not doing that, do that. I'm looking forward to seeing a bunch of you at noon Pacific, and I'll hand it off to Deborah.
Well, I just want to put an exclamation point on something Lance said. And I know this, I say it in my words, which for some, it may sound a little lame, but when you create Graham-worthy experiences for your clients or your agent partners, when it's wow, and that could be your advice, it could be how you make them feel. You guys may not realize it, but there's little social media influencers. Now, their day job may be sales, but behind the scenes, they have a massive TikTok following, or they're on Instagram. And if you just plant the seed, or you make it that wow experience, that becomes your marketing department. That would be the ultimate goal, is to create raving fans that are your biggest advocates online, tagging you as a collaborator. So your feed is filled by you being who you are, not because you say so, but because the community does. So up your game on your advice and your experience.
And,
All right,
and,
awesome.
and up your game on what is a Graham-worthy experience. You know, your sister, you know, the mortgage nerd, you know, a Graham-worthy experience to her is walking a customer through, you know, the net worth gain and the difference between renting and versus owning. You know, she creates stories and posts. I'll put a link to one of my favorite. It's less than a month old, but Graham-worthy experiences are not just cute pictures in a restaurant, and you know, their advice. You know, you're helping families achieve the true American dream, which is home ownership and financial freedom, and you're telling stories on Graham. So it's been an incredible call. It's really nice meeting you, Lance. Todd, thank you for introducing Lance to our community, brother. Knuckles to everyone, and it's been an awesome mastermind. Thank you very much, and this is a wrap, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Guys.
Thanks again, Lance. Good seeing you all.
You too.